Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Brea. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with the team that makes their way to the village/fort. Obviously, Scott talks about the fact is that this particular indigenous group are peaceful people, but then Lucas does bring up the fact is, well, if they're so peaceful, why would they put up walls unless it's like there's some issues on that? I mean, there's wildlife and stuff like that, but it means they're dealing with something that would need specifically walls to kind of counter, so like maybe people. So the village is empty and everyone goes their separate ways. It is interesting because Eve makes an excuse like, oh, Josh, you come with me. He's like, no. I mean, I've got the doc by my side, that being Riley. But it's just Eve didn't want to be around Levi right now because it's like, well, she just found out that Gavin knows. And for her, that's the most frustrating thing is because like if anything was going to happen, she wanted to tell Gavin in her own time because it would be better if it come from her because now she can't like, say it face to face because it's better if it came from her. Having to find out from not only like your best friend that he's having an affair with your wife, even that he loves your wife. That's a whole complication in itself. But they end up finding another body at this facility. I said facility at the fort, and it looks exactly like Eddie's body. Granted, they don't know about Eddie's death yet. So the question is, how did that happen? What caused that? That's why I'm still like, I'm not 100% sure if it's something man-made. They said it looks like being electrocuted. That's why I'm like, are we going to have like some fantastical thing? Like Lost had the smoke monster. So I don't know. With all the way the setup of this series is, I feel like it won't be something like fantastical. I feel like it's most likely like maybe there is something human made that they were able to electrocute. But why? Like, are these like sacrifices to the gods? Because like they did the same thing with Veronica and Lily's quote unquote dad. So that's why I'm like, because that body, after it was taken from the wolves, was put in like that stone hand. So I'm like, well, those rocks in the formation of their symbol, that hand. So I'm like, not unless that's like some ritual to the gods. So there's like a lot of stuff that you're like, okay, like what is going on here? So obviously Lucas and Scott are together. And I love that whole situation of Scott's like, he's like, oh, well, you're looking for your drugs, is this, is that way, because he was like, oh yeah, bro time, cool, but it's like, yeah, you go this way, and he's like, Lucas is like, you don't know where my drugs are, do you? And he's like, what? Did I say that? Because if I did, I'm sorry if I gave you that impression. And sadly, they both get attacked and knocked out because, once again, Scott froze. He didn't pick up the gun when he was supposed to, just kind of like the situation with Riley, he kind of froze. It's like, understandably, when you're terrified, you're going to freeze under pressure. He's proven that he's not only done it once, he's done it twice, so. But anyway, the fact is that something that Levi didn't tell Eve or the others is that there was actually a part 2 to his mission. It wasn't just to find the La Brea sinkhole people, but the Mojave Desert people too. And it turns out this guy is one of those people, this dead body that they found in the village. I can only assume the same. Because the guy had a Mojave Desert shirt now, or Mojave shirt, but Eve hasn't said anything yet because everyone's keeping hush. Mum's the word about that guy. Don't want to make everyone feel hopeless, but it makes you go, okay, so I don't know if it seemed like she might have connected those dots in this, but no, like, I mean, to be fair, it's not like they have a body enough to, like, tell that it's like, no, like, home dude is dead, and he's like a skeleton, like, all his flesh is gone, so there's no, like, distinguishment. I guess, like, maybe they could look at the picture and see if anyone's wearing that, but maybe they changed clothes in that time frame, who knows. But it turns out, like, obviously, because the reason why, like, is, like, he was sent here to also investigate that, but he's like, we're in L.A., like, the sinkhole was in La Brea. I didn't actually think, like, people who went missing in the Mojave situation would be here, but it's like, yeah, so I guess, like, all the sinkholes lead to this one spot, or maybe, because I guess geologically speaking, like, where they are is where La Brea, LA would be, and I guess, like, the Mojave, like, wouldn't be this far out, or maybe just geographically speaking, they're not. I don't know. Because I guess, like, they must have, like, landed somewhere near where the Mojave is, and they just, like, traveled closer to where, like, La Brea would be, modern day, so, I guess, I at first was wondering whether or not the tribe that they run into this episode were the people that they met, but it's like, no, because if they were, like, Levi would have noticed, like, based on the picture, so none of them are that. But it is the thing, because even Scott was like, the fact is you're speaking English. He's like, the English don't settle this area until, like, 16th century. It's, like, way too early for that. Yet there's, like, people here speaking English. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. So that's why I was like, well, because once again, we know that the Mojave Desert situation was the fourth. So there were 3 before, and once again, we don't know how much this has happened over the course of time. So, like, this could be a generation of people, like, English speakers, because it's not, like, British English, it's American English, too. So that's, like, well, you know, I mean, because, like, none of them have accents, though. Like, they have, like, American accents. No, I said I don't have accents. They have American accents. It doesn't seem like they have, like, you know, Scott has an Australian accent because he's from Australia. So, like, that's what I mean. So maybe this specifically connects, because it makes you wonder, like, is this like a generation of people here? Then why aren't they, like, responding like, hey, like, help us? It's like, they had to have been here for a long period of time. So it has to be like a generational thing. Like, they've been here for generations. So maybe, like, the timey-wimey of this place isn't, like, 100% copacetic. Like, maybe people at different points, like, the different sinkholes led to different points in times. Like, the La Brea squad is here, or maybe it's, like, once that's when, like, maybe the different sinkholes drop people in here at different points in time, because eventually the glow does go away and you're trapped there. So what if the next spot it opens up, like, you know, like I brought up before, like, maybe time isn't as, like, linear, because in some cases it seems like it's a 1-for-1, like, oh, 5 nights outside is 5 nights in this world and in this time. So, but maybe once the portals close, that's when time starts getting weird. That the next time it's open, maybe it's like 1,000 years later. That's my, because, like, for them to be speaking English, for them to not, like, immediately connect with these people, because he refers to them as people from the sky. So once again, the parallel I make is like the 100. You know, like, at the time they were referred to as the Grounders, but they had beef with the Sky people. So, like, you know, Sky Crew and eventually, like, Tree Crew had their beef. So maybe it's a similar parallel of, like, yeah, it's just like the Grounders were like 100, like a generation past in 100 years of people just growing up like that. So maybe this is a similar thing in that vein. That's my only explanation for it. You have the thing between Josh and Riley, where Riley is like, oh, we're kind of like an age group apart or something like that. Because it's like, right, I'm like, was in college or in high school. Like, we're at different phases of our life. Because she's like, he's like, don't trust Lucas. She's like, no, but he can't be all bad. He's like, yeah, but he's threatening to kill Scott. Nah, he won't kill Scott. Really? The guy just got a gun and who's a drug dealer? It's like, nah, like, but for her, she's, like, more indebted to him, because it's like, oh, you helped save my dad's life, and it's like, I wouldn't trust. She's like, are you jealous? He's like, no, and I was like, I don't think it is jealousy. I think it is, well, maybe there is some jealousy, but it's also like, right, Lucas is a lot more dangerous. I mean, to be fair, his mom's a cop, but I think that makes it even more, like, yeah, probably want to stay away from him, considering, like, but obviously, like, him and his mom, that's a whole checkered thing in itself of, like, yeah, it seems like, for whatever reason, whether it was accidental or, like, she said she felt like she had no choice but to, like, I guess, shoot and kill his dad. I think his dad was probably not a good person, and she just can't, no matter what Lucas says, it can't be justified. Maybe there's things about his dad he didn't know, or maybe did, I don't know, maybe he's falling in his own dad's business. Because I love that Scott tried to be like, hey, why don't we take some of these, weapons to present day, we could sell them for a fortune. He's like, nah, I've got $250,000 worth of heroin. And it's like, okay, that's waiting for him the moment he's able to sell it back. Yeah, probably make an even prettier penny with some of these weapons, but still. But obviously, like, everyone is scattered. Riley and Josh ended up finding a way out of the village and couldn't find a way back, and they're hiding. And obviously, like, Riley's like, right, I don't want to go back in there, like, I'm scared, which Josh is like, you're a hypocrite. Like, you got so pissed at my mom because, like, she wasn't, because of your whole dad situation. She's like, it was different. I was like, yeah, she was trying to save me, and I'm trying to do the same here. It's like, for him, it's like, I get that you're scared, but, like, despite you being scared, you still operated on your dad. I need that Riley, the Riley that's not afraid of anything. I need you to be that right now to help me save my family. So they were able to sneak their way back in. The kids, surprisingly enough, helped Levi and Levi and Eve, but the question is why? When the rest of the village is ready, bow and arrows in hand, ready to shoot and kill you guys, why is it that the kids are willing to give you a chance? That's what I'm so curious about. Maybe it's just the innocence of children of like, oh, like they seem like nice people, they don't seem like terrible people, so like let's help them out. Maybe there's not so much of a stranger danger in this time because like they're the only ones around, not unless they did have enemies. I mean, who knows? Like might not be the only tribe of people. Like there might be rival tribes that they built up. They're like maybe like generations ago. I mean, just like everyone stemmed from the, like going back to the 100 comparison, everyone stemmed from the same ancestors, but they all branched out and became their own groups. So, you know, there was like the tree crew, and then there was there was like the Ice Queen had her own like group of people too. So like that type of situation, like there might be a rival tribe. They're all from the same ancestry, but they like at some point the bloodlines or whatever, like all the people just divided into like this is this group, the handprint group, and then there's like another one, or maybe there's multiple. Who knows? There's so many questions in that regard, but it's like why else would they have to like? I mean, besides like the animals and threats on that front, but it's like it might be like in defense of people specifically, like being able to come up with tactics that an animal necessarily wouldn't be able to. So there's definitely something at play there. So maybe they looked at them as like, even though you're dressed differently, maybe they looked at him as like a rival. So maybe that's what it was. So, but the thing, like I said, the kids weren't like apprehensive, like, because it turns out the main leader of the group, his grandson was the one that helped them. And, you know, so once again, the question goes back to why. There's the Scott and Lucas thing, which I love. It's like, right, let's get out of here. They are... Lucas is just, Scott's like, yeah, all the ways he thought he could die, accidental stabbing, heart attack, all this, and he's like, never thought I'd die in 10,000 BC. But then, like, because of Lucas's lighter, they're able to get out of here, and so, and I love that, like, I was wondering whether Scott was going to do it, and he hesitates at first. Lucas is like, what are you doing? He's like, promise me you're not going to hurt me when we get out here. He's like, what? Really? You're doing this now? He's like, no, promise me. He's like, you're not going to make it 2 feet if you leave me here. And he's like, fine. And unties him. And the guy's like, cool. Lucas gets his lighter back and he punches Scott in the face. It's like, that's for almost leaving me. I was like, such a dick move. But luckily they were all able to escape, but because someone stopped him, like, I guess she's like the leader or something. I thought Silas was, because he's the little boy's grandfather, but she's like, Silas, let them go. And it's like, why? Maybe she recognized that they weren't the enemy, or I don't know. Maybe she recognizes them as kind of like, oh, you're very similar to our ancestors. Once again, like, there has to be some timey-wimey stuff going on here for them to speak English and just to have that disconnect where they wouldn't really recognize him as... Well, no, because it's like... No, it can't be that they recognize him as another tribe, because the grandfather knows that they're sky people, but maybe he's just distrustful of them because they're not of our land. You broke into our home. I don't know, because that does defeat what I brought up before. I mean, it still might be true, but there's no way they would think of them as like... Because he knows they're sky people. He's been watching them, so he knows they fell from the sky. Once again, a lot of questions. But obviously, Scott tries to stand up to Lucas and is like, oh, like, you know, has this moment of like, he's like, oh, look at you, you've grown balls, but you should have left me behind because like you're going to help me find my drugs. But it's like, oh yeah, you're like officially on my shit list now. So there's that. So that's interesting. On the other side of things, back at camp, obviously there's still not much known about the situation with Eddie, about who killed him, who this man was. Mary Beth, Sam, and Ty have all been feeling like there's definitely more going on with Lily, but they need her to open up. And Ty, with therapy and stuff, would normally like have like things for them to work on, but it's like they need like an activity to kind of get them to open it up. And it's like, right, someone had some like softball stuff here, so it wasn't just for them. I'm sure it helped everyone else too of calm down. I love, once again, I don't know home dude's name because he's the one that's like, oh yeah, some guy got killed, and I think it was like Tony was like, yeah, but that guy had a name. It was Eddie. Yeah, whatever. It's like that. He's the one that's all about helping himself. But I love that he's like, yeah, I enjoyed myself. I stopped thinking about my untimely death for exactly like 20 minutes. But the softball game they were able to kind of convince Lily, like, oh, like, because Lily did want to play, so she was able to open up a little bit. Because obviously Veronica talks about, like, our dad, he was a very strict man, he was religious, but, like, he didn't want us interacting with the outside world, so when we got here, he told Lily not to say anything. She's like, I was like, well, I was about to say, like, because I was about to call her out for the fact is, it's like, well, we know you told Lily not to say anything. That wasn't your father's orders. But then I guess it's like, she did immediately says, like, but, I was just doing what our father told her. So, all right, but do you think Lily knows it? No. She didn't say anything else. If she does, I'll let you know. But it's like, Ty's like, I still don't trust that. There's still something there. And so Lily ends up opening up about the fact is that her dad actually taught her, like, and it's like, oh, Veronica said your dad was pretty strict. I didn't see him being like a baseball coach. And she's like, right, I don't want to play anymore. Because, like, it started getting to those conversations she didn't want to have. So, but then later on, Ty's talking with her, and we find out the deep, dark secret. Because I brought it up before what I thought it was. I thought Veronica was her sister mother. Now, this isn't a situation of like, oh, what is the truth is worse or better. Maybe in certain perspectives you can see like, it's better, I guess. I think it's a lateral movement of just like both options sucked. What I considered was kind of like, oh man, that's shitty. And then like what ends up happening, what the truth of the situation is also shitty. Because it turns out Veronica isn't like, oh, her sister mom or anything. It's like, no, she's the woman that helped kidnap Lily. It's like she was taken a year ago. You're like, it's a Stockholm situation. I think Veronica's in the same way. I think Veronica was in a Stockholm thing of like, this guy kidnapped her and groomed her, so now she ended up helping him. And Ty, no one hears that, and Veronica's back, and she's like, and Ty's like, we need to talk. Veronica runs off into the woods. Not good, but that's why she was like, if you tell these people, they won't understand. It's like, she was taken from her actual family. I think Veronica was too, but she was probably like about Lily's age, if not younger, and was probably groomed to either be his wife or play the role of his daughter. But either way, their dad, Aaron, terrible, terrible person. So we'll see where things kind of go with that now, that new revelation. I said revolution. But you have the whole situation with Josh and Riley. Something's happening there, obviously, like, she kisses him on the cheek, and Josh is kind of like, yeah! Like, everything worked out. So, before we kind of finish up everything there, let's kind of tie it into everything that's going on the outside. Albert is talking about they kind of have to go now. It has to be a decision, but obviously the biggest concern, and Izzy's biggest concern is, well, yeah, but what if my dad does go in there? Is there any guarantee that he'll come out? But Izzy does, because Izzy doesn't trust Albridge. But we find out more about why her and Sophie are so Dr. Nathan are so invested in this. Because it turns out Dr. Nathan's fiance was one of the people involved with the Mojave situation. So she's somewhere down there. So once again, she might be out there, but once again, the timey-wiminess of it all, it's been 3 years on the outside, but it could have been it's been, going by the 100 years or something. Once again, it could be a couple generations separated. So her fiance might not be alive. Once again, if that ends up being the case. Because, I forgot, that's not the case, because we definitely know they're alive, because one of the scientists that Levi was meant to come looking for and investigate about was there. So it's like, no, that immediately gets rid of that. Some older people might be what this, it might be some people from, connected to the other three sinkholes. But regardless, so it's they're there somewhere. I guess they're just, it's a big, massive place. It's the entire Earth, just, you don't know where everyone is, how far you'd have to travel. It's actually kind of interesting, because, we never got a full scale of just, everywhere, on the 100. I know I'm going on a tangent, but it's you never got, to my knowledge, they never really explored the entirety of the world. There's, different, regions they went to and stuff like that, but it was never, you got to see, all over the world. You pretty much stayed in certain places, when they first, the crash landing sites for Sky Crew is mainly, the places they stand in, and, where the villages are, which you got those different regions of all the people that made up the Grounders, all the different tribes. So, I don't know, it's like those scientists could be anywhere, because, yeah, there's someone from the Mojave all the way here, but his body was most likely brought here, so it's where the other station at? Are they hiding out somewhere? Once again, we found one person, connected to Mojave in that cave that they ended up finding. So where are the others? We'll have to wait and see. But that's why Dr. Nathan's invested in all this, is trying to get to her fiance, as well as, helping all those other people, because they were people a part of that team. But also that's Albridge's reason, because it's like, these are people that they were on my lookout, and I failed them by not helping them. So she's trying to do everything she can. She's been working the past 3 years to find a way. Granted, the Mojave situation, it eventually closed, so they didn't have much of a chance in that regard. But but Gavin is pulled more and more away from what, like, he wants to do it. He feels like he's the only one that can do it. But, in a situation where it's like, right, I don't know what the right thing to do, because I don't want to leave my family behind. I don't want to leave Izzy all alone, because there's no guarantee I could make it back. Because Dr. Nathan is meant to, like, shut down, like, their security protocols, because if not, and they try to go into the sinkhole, they will most likely get shot down. And it's like, there seems like no good options here. There's no, like, guarantees in this, and Aldrich is like, you have to take the risk. But she goes all the way back to LA with them to show them what's what. And it turns out the thing she wants to show them is a letter that Eve wrote. And it's like, she's super cryptic about, like, because at the very least, Gavin has his visions that led him to, that's how he knew where to find Eve's ring. What led Albridge to look here? So it has to be a thing of, like, either she has some visions, and if she does, like, why hasn't she said anything? Did she have visions? But maybe, like, because I was about to say, like, the Mojave Desert one closed, and Gavin still had those visions years later, and obviously it's just even more stronger now, because I guess maybe the visions get stronger when a sinkhole is open. Like, we don't know how frequently he was having them prior to the La Brea incident, like, how often they were happening. Like, maybe, like, the frequency decreases when the portal closes, and when it's open it increases again, or who knows. But I'm like, she definitely, like Izzy said, it definitely feels like she's still hiding stuff, because she herself said, like, because I almost thought, like, Gavin was going to bring Izzy along. I thought that was going to be it, but it's like, no, Albridge is like, no, I'm going to be the one that goes with you. So I think I said Albridge. I think it's Aldridge, whatever the case may be. So, but they found a letter from Eve somehow, and it turns out that the portal is closing. And because Eve was like, I wish I had, I don't know if I'll ever see you again, but, I wish we'd have time to work on us. And, you and Izzy look after each other, take care of each other. She's like, you found my ring, so I figured you could potentially find this letter. So I'm assuming, like, because I think she said, like, this is where they are. This is because at first I was like, could this be the village? But I'm like, no. This is most likely the clearing that they're, like, the main hub for the La Brea crew. Of, like, where they landed, like, that clearing is most likely where the letter was found. That's where they are in present day. I mean, that's why they had to come all the way back to LA. Because, like, this, it's like, if I said this, like, would you ever really believe me, considering, like, you're kind of tiptoeing on whether or not you really trust me or not. And especially what kind of motivated Eve to say all that is because, obviously, it's like, right, it's like, God, like, what could have, like, gone through Gavin's mind? What would he have felt like hearing all that from Levi about the affair and everything? And for her, it's just, she regrets it, but Levi is like, but at the end of the day, Gavin wasn't there for you. But Eve now knows, like, there was legitimacy to what he was seeing, what he was going through. It doesn't make it any better. Like, even if he wasn't there, but it's like, yeah, I wasn't there when he needed me, because I just thought he was crazy. But, like, nope, turns out there's more to him and his visions. But then, it's like, what did he say when you told him? And it's like, he asked me if I loved you. And what did you say? He's like, I didn't say anything. And he didn't need me to say anything, so making it perfectly clear how Levi feels. So it's like, ooh, drama, love triangle. It's going to definitely be complicated. But with this revelation, like, obviously, there's a chance that the portal is closing and that Gavin won't be able to get to them in time and come back. And, so he doesn't want to leave Izzy behind. But it's like, I got Aunt Jess, like, you go. Like, this may be our only time to save them, especially because, like, the portal's going to be closed tomorrow, so we're down to the hours. Even Adam showing up, telling Nathan not to get involved with whatever Gavin's up to. Don't even help him do it, because it's like, yes, I know people are down there, and I do everything I can to help them, but people, like, that last explosion caused, like, a 5-point earthquake, and if another thing like that happens again, it could be catastrophic. But, you know, Dr. Nathan's like, but you don't know that. He's like, yeah, but I'm not willing to take that risk. No matter how many people are down there. I get you want to see Diana, your fiance, but we have to make sacrifices because this is too dangerous. And once again, we have no idea when the next portal is going to be. Like I said, maybe we have to look at the time frames, because we know between Mojave and La Brea there was 3 years, but who's to say, like, prior to the, like, how much time was in between the previous ones? Like, was it like a certain intervals? I was like, oh, was that the first one like 16 years ago, and the next one was like 8 years ago, and then 4 years ago, now 3 years ago, and like the next one will be like in the 2 years or 1 year, like stuff like that. I'm curious whether that'll come into play or not, because once again, once that portal closes, there's no getting that back open. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.